Okay, so this has been out for a few weeks now, but OpenAI released their Assistance API, which allows you to basically build your own AI assistants. And so, what I'm going to do is test this out using some product documentation that's publicly available for the HCL Commerce platform. Briefly, before we test it, let's take a look at how the assistants work. So the assistants can call OpenAI's models with specific instructions to tune their personality and capabilities. Assistants can access multiple tools in parallel. These can be OpenAI hosted tools like the code interpreter or knowledge retrieval, or tools that you build via function calling. Assistants can access persistent threads. That means threads simplify AI application development by storing message history and truncating it when the conversation gets too long for the model's context length. You create a thread once and simply append messages to it as your users reply. And 4, assistants can access files in several formats, either as part of their creation or as part of threads between assistants and users. So if we take a look at what files are supported, you can see which files are supported for the different types of plugins that OpenAI provides, for example, code interpreter or retrieval. For this demonstration, I'm going to keep things simple and stick to just plain text files. But as you can see, all kinds of files such as Markdown, PDFs, PowerPoint presentations, CSS documents, you name it, can be used as part of these assistants. So just real quick, if we take a look at the objects that make up the assistant, we have the assistant itself, for example, a personal finance bot. And this is a purpose-built AI that uses OpenAI's models and can call different tools. Then you have the thread, which in this case is retirement planning. And this is essentially a conversation between the assistant and the user that's using the assistant. And then the threads store messages and automatically handle truncation to fit content into a model's context. Then you have messages, a message created by an assistant or a user. They can include text, images, and other files. Messages stored as a list on the thread. So this is where we can actually provide our own data files if we want, and that's part of the message object. And then we have runs. This is an invocation of an assistant on a thread. So in this case, the assistant is a personal finance bot, and the run is taking place on the retirement planning thread. So then the assistant will basically use its configuration and the messages that are in the thread to perform different tasks by calling models and tools. And so then once the response comes back from the model or tools or documents that you've trained it on, the assistant will respond with messages to the thread. And then run steps is just a list of steps that the assistant took as part of a run. So, for example, an assistant can call tools or create messages during its run. Examining run steps allows you to introspect how the assistant is getting to its final results. So it really gives you step-by-step flow of what the assistant is actually doing under the covers to answer the questions and have the conversation that you're trying to have. So let's take a look at building our own assistant. So the first thing I'm going to do is come to my OpenAI account, and I'm going to go to the Assistants Playground, and I'm going to click Create to create a new assistant. And to start out with, we're just going to give it a user-friendly name. So we'll say Commerce Doc Bot. And for instructions, we're basically just going to tell it what we want this to do. You are a helpful chatbot. When users ask you questions about the HCL Commerce platform, you will use only the files that have been uploaded to answer those questions. Please aim to simplify the answers wherever possible. And then we're going to select the model. So I'll just go ahead and pick the GPT-4 1106 preview. And we have some additional tools that we can turn on here. So we can add functions to it. We can use the code interpreter. In this case, because we're going to be using data that we're going to be creating and training this assistant on, we're actually going to be using retrieval. So I'm going to go ahead and turn retrieval on. And next you'll notice that there's a section for files where you can add files in here. From the documentation that I've read, text files are what work the best. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through and find a couple different pages in the Knowledge Center for HCL Commerce and convert those pages into text files. And then I'll upload those text files into our new assistant here. Okay, so if I come over to our product documentation, you'll see that the first page here, like the landing page, is an HCL Commerce product overview. So this has a lot of information about what HCL Commerce is, some different, highlights of capabilities and tools that are within the platform, etc. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this URL, and then I'm going to use a tool called totheweb.com. And totheweb.com is a useful tool to provide a URL. It will go to that page and turn it into a text file that you can download. So I'm going to go ahead and paste in my URL. I'm not a robot, and I'm going to say convert to text. And you'll see that it has converted that web page into text. So what we can do now is we can choose to copy all text or copy selected text. So I'm just going to say copy all text. And it says that the text has been copied to my clipboard. So next what I'm going to do is I'm going to just come in into my code editor here and say create a new text file. And I'm going to simply paste that text into the text file. Now we can go through and we can, for example, take out information that we think is not relevant, such as little links that they may have within the documentation, and focus in only on the actual content that we want to be able to retrieve information on. So I'm just going to get rid of a couple things at the beginning and at the end. And then I'll basically just save this file as a text file. So in this case, I'll just call this 1.txt to my assistants folder. And there we go. So we now have our first document that we're going to use the retrieval capability with on product documentation for HCL Commerce. So now what I'll do is I'll come back to the Assistants Playground area, and underneath Files, I have the ability to add a file. So I'm going to go ahead and click Add a File. And I'll go ahead and select that text file that we just created and say Open. And it will upload that file. And I can now click Save. What I'm going to do, though, is I'm going to go through and find a couple other pages that I want to get information on and create text files of those pages as well. Okay, so on this page, we have a list of all of the different things that have been enhanced within our business user tooling with each of the releases that we've had. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this URL. I'm going to come back to theweb.com, and I'm going to replace that URL with this URL. I'm going to see all the text that's been generated down here. And I'm going to come up and say copy all text. I'm going to come back over to my code editor. I'm going to say create a new text file. I'm going to paste in all that text. This time I'll just save it as 2.txt. So now I have two text files that I can train my model on. So I'll come back over to the playground and I'll say add. And I'll pick 2.txt. And then I'll go ahead and click save. You'll see that it's saving my assistant, and my assistant's been created. So then over here in the center of the window, we have our thread. So we're going to come in here and enter a message and say, please tell me what HCL Commerce is. We're going to say add and run. You'll see here that it comes back with HCL Commerce as a high availability, highly scalable, and customizable e-commerce platform designed to support hundreds of thousands of transactions per day. It facilitates business with both consumers, B2C, and directly with other businesses, B2B. Using cloud-friendly technology, HCL Commerce simplifies deployment and operations. It offers tools for business users to centrally manage cross-channel strategies, allowing them to create and manage precision marketing campaigns, promotions, catalogs, and merchandising across all sales channels, and also provide AI-enabled content management capabilities. Okay, so if I come to the product overview, if I scroll down here and look for something specific. Okay, catalog filter and pricing tool can be used to filter by product, category, or product attributes. Filters can be assigned to contracts to support B2B or to stores to support extended sites. So I'm going to ask my assistant, is it possible to filter the catalog of products with HCL Commerce? Then I'll say add and run. Yes, with HCL Commerce, it is possible to filter the catalog of products. The catalog filter and pricing tool in the management center allows you to create and manage catalog filters as well as price lists and price rules. Pretty cool. All right, so let's come over to our management center enhancement list here and take a look at a couple different things. Management Center has replaced CK Editor with Tiny MCE Editor. So let's see, what is the current rich text editor used in the Management Center? The current rich text editor used in Management Center for HCL Commerce is Tiny MCE. Now, this documentation doesn't explicitly say that we use the Tiny MCE. What it does say is that we have replaced CK Editor with Tiny MCE. So that's pretty amazing that the assistant was able to decipher from that data that that's the current text editor that we're using. That's what I was trying to see if it would be able to figure out, is that because we replaced it, that is now the current text editor that we're using. So that's pretty cool. And last, I'm just curious with this information here, we have some data on our marketplace capability, which is extremely powerful and completely native within the platform. But I'm curious because I'm not actually providing it documentation on marketplaces itself. This is more just kind of some high-level updates that we've made within the tooling. I'm curious if I was to ask it a few different questions about marketplaces, if it is able to formulate some type of an accurate response. So I'm going to do something super informal and just say, can you tell me a little about the marketplace capabilities? The marketplace capabilities within HCL Commerce enable a web storefront that allows third-party sellers to sell their products on your platform. Additionally, with HCL Commerce, you can manage shipping and set up taxes at store level using the Management Center. Okay, so that last part isn't really entirely relevant, but it did accurately describe the marketplace capability. I'm curious whether can sellers in the marketplace onboard themselves to the marketplace, and how does the marketplace operator approve those requests? And you'll notice that most of these responses are very short and brief. That's because in the instructions for the bot, I said, please aim to simplify the answers wherever possible. So it comes back and says, yes, sellers can onboard themselves to the marketplace, and this process involves seller registration requests being placed from the storefront, which is true. Marketplace operators and site administrators have the ability to approve these registration requests. That's pretty amazing that it's able to provide these types of responses. So now I'm curious, if I come over and I change the instructions slightly, if I can make an update to my assistant. Please provide detailed responses and include bullets and other formatting where appropriate. And I'll say save. My assistant's been updated. So now I'll say, please provide some information on marketplace updates in the latest release. This will be interesting. From the information available in the documents, there have been several updates to the marketplace in the latest releases of HCL Commerce, specifically from version 9.1.12 onwards. Some of these updates include: Marketplace Operator can now access the marketplace contracts through the Marketplace tool. Marketplace sellers and marketplace seller administrators are able to access the marketplace contracts through the seller dashboard. There's the capability to manage marketplace contract pricing and contract filters. Marketplace operators and site administrators have the authority to approve seller registration requests that are placed from the storefront. These enhancements focus on improving the management capabilities and administrative controls within the platform's marketplace functionality. Unfortunately, due to a tool error, I can't quote the specific section, but the updates mentioned are gleaned from the most recent provided document. If you require more detailed information or the exact text, please let me know, and I will attempt to retrieve the data again. Okay, so this last part here is obviously kind of complaining about its ability to provide the source of the data that it answered this question with. If we come back to our list here, the marketplace operator can access the marketplace contracts through the marketplace tool. And the marketplace sellers and seller administrators can access the contracts through the seller dashboard. So that's where it's getting that information from. Marketplace operators and site administrators can approve seller registration requests placed from the storefront. So that is all accurate information. And as you can see, in 9.1.13 and 9.1.14, there aren't any specific mentions of things having to do with the marketplace. So that was an accurate response. But as you can see, I was able to come into the assistant's playground here, create an actual assistant. I get an assistant ID here as well as a thread ID. And what is really nice about this is that once you have this assistant created, you can actually access this through the assistant's API and have it run within your own front-end application. So you have the ability to have all of this capability, but have the user interactions taking place through some custom front end, whether it's a chat bot or whether it's some kind of a page where they can just come and ask questions about your documentation, etc. Extremely powerful and extremely easy to use. And one final test here is I'm going to change the instructions and I'm going to say, please provide helpful but brief answers to questions in a friendly and casual style. And I'm going to add another file called marketing.txt. And this is a blog that I actually wrote on the marketing capabilities within the platform. So there's a lot of actual, like, here's what the tool does. These are the different types of things that you can configure within your personalization logic, for example. So I have this whole article here, and that's what's in this text file. So I'm going to go ahead and save this. And I'm going to say, provide me a explanation of your personalization capabilities. Okay, personalization in HCL Commerce is about delivering what customers want, when, and how they want it, to forge a loyal customer base. It involves knowing the customers well and understanding their needs, which is a fundamental expectation of their experience with your brand. HCL Commerce offers a powerful and robust set of marketing capabilities out of the box to make the shopping experience more relevant to each customer. These capabilities include customer segments, e-marketing spots, marketing content, web and dialogue activities, marketing experiments, search rules and experiments. These tools equip marketers and merchandisers to tailor the shopping experience to individual customer behaviors and preferences, aiming to enhance customer loyalty and satisfaction. And then I'll say, what is a web activity? Please provide an example. Okay, a web activity in HCL Commerce is used to schedule and control the marketing information you want to display to your customers, allowing for personalization of the shopping experience. Web activities can be set with start and end dates and assigned different priority levels. True. An example of a web activity would be personalizing the recommended products that customers see on the homepage of a storefront. The process begins with an e-marketing spot trigger and then uses a branching system to differentiate between user segments. For instance, you could have one branch for customers that are in the registered customers segment and another branch for all other visitors. Depending on which segment the customer falls into, they would see different product recommendations. This example shows how web activities uses triggers to initiate an activity, targets to personalize the activity for specific customers, and actions to determine what the user experiences as a result of the triggers and targets. That's amazing. Can you shorten and explain that to me like I'm a fifth grader? Just curious whether it has all of those cool ChatGPT nuances that we've all grown to know and love, to be able to change the way it words things. Sure thing. A web activity is like a special plan you make to show cool stuff to your customers when they visit your online shop. Imagine you have a magic board where you can stick pictures of products. You can decide who gets to see which pictures based on what they like or what they have looked at before in your shop. For example, let's say you have two groups of friends coming over to play. One group really likes board games and the other group really likes comic books. You have this magic board that can show different pictures. So for your board game loving friends, you put up pictures of the newest board games on one side of the board. For the comic book fans, you put up pictures of the latest superhero comics on the other side. That way, everyone sees what they like best. In the online shop, this magic board is your homepage, and the pictures are the products you recommend. The shop can tell if someone is a regular customer or a new visitor and shows them different things that they might like to buy. This is done with simple rules, just like when you decide what game to play or what comic to read next. That's crazy. I think it's pretty self-explanatory how powerful this capability actually is. And from a development perspective, one of the other really cool features of this interface is that there's a logs section here. So you can actually open this up and you can see all of the different API calls that are being made to the Assistance API for the various questions that have been being asked and the answers that are being given back. And so, for example, when I asked if we have the ability to filter the catalog of products with HCL Commerce, you can see that a post API call was done for that particular question. And then further on down in the list here, you'll see that there was a get call where it's getting the messages response back from the documentation that it's retrieving from. And you can see the JSON here for the response that came up in the conversation. And on line 94 here, you can see, yes, with HCL Commerce, it is possible to filter the catalog of products.